Welcome to The Clever Angle, the podcast where you get job shadowing experience without the job shadowing. I'm your host, Tevin McGee, and each week I'll bring you a different career field and give you a roadmap of how to get there. So without further ado, let's jump into the show. Guys, welcome to another episode of The Clever Angle. I'm your host, Tevin McGee, and I've got my friend Alex Kieffer. He's a pilot here in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and we're really just going to dive into the background of how you get there, what it takes, what qualifications. Alex, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
So, man, what you been up to during this quarantine, man?
I think I've been doing like what everyone else is doing, sitting at the house. We've done not a whole lot of traveling. We went and stayed a week at the lake. Other than that, just staying by ourselves mainly. Yeah.
So, you ever been on a podcast before?
First one.
What kind of podcasts do you typically listen to?
I think I can go with the mass majority of people and say Joe Rogan and then Meat Eater podcast.
Meat Eater. What's that about?
That's he has a Netflix series. Gosh, I can't remember his name. It's really good. He's a hunter, and he goes out. He has a Netflix show where he hunts, but he shows you how to cook and clean and gut everything about the animals and use every part of the animal. And he has awesome stories about getting attacked by bears and in Alaska and all kinds of stuff. It's awesome.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome, man. So yeah, you know why you're here. We're here to talk about everything in the air, everything in the pilot industry. So just take us through what made you want to be a pilot?
Well, Superman is something I tell people, but ever since I was little, Superman's been my favorite guy. And if I ever get asked, and you've asked me this plenty of times, what if you could have a superpower, what would it be? It's flying, absolutely. And so I've always been interested in flying, and the only way to do that and with our physics is through airplanes. And so through high school I wanted to do it, but I didn't start off going that direction. I didn't really want to, but the most logical sense was to go into business after my dad. And
what did your dad do?
He is an owner of Bad Boy Lawnmowers. And
really? I didn't
out of
know
Batesville, part owner. And so he's worked there since he started it. One of the guys that started it. So since I was real little, and I believe it started in 98. So I was 4 years old. And so I was thinking I was going to work for them out of Batesville. I like the town. So out of high school, I got a basketball scholarship to play at Lyon College there in Batesville. And I was thinking going business. Turns out it just wasn't for me, and my grades kind of weren't very good. And over the summer, I was just thinking and running through everything, and got to looking into aviation, which I think is something that a lot of people think is unattainable. It's almost like one of those jobs that you're like almost like people that you don't know. I mean, people are pilots, I guess. Do you know any pilots besides me?
I mean, I know Matt and I know Seth,
yeah.
But I mean, I think I know more pilots than the average person.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I didn't hardly know anybody. I had an uncle that was a pilot, but it's just not one of those things. It's just almost one of those I'm not on a high pedestal, but it's almost one of those things where you're like, it's unattainable, and it's really not. But I didn't know that at the time. I was kind of running through my options one summer, and now I decided to go down that track, and I made the decision to go for it. Never looked back.
Yeah. So is there like an age requirement that you have to be a pilot?
16.
16.
Yeah.
Wow.
Driver's license. You're good to go.
So when people find out you're a pilot, do they make any Top Gun references or anything?
Yeah. So I get lots of Top Gun, and the funny thing is I've never seen it.
Oh my gosh, that's one of Matt's favorite movies.
I want to watch it so bad, I just haven't.
Dude, I actually watched it pretty recently. And when I say pretty recently, within like the last 5 years. And it's like it's an older movie.
Yeah.
But it's actually really good, man. It's really good. Shout out to Matt Smith. He couldn't be here today, but he was the second pilot we were going to have on the show. He would definitely give an interesting perspective. But yeah, just take us through your college experience. And you said you were leaning towards business, but now you're going to aviation. So what was it like balancing like school and basketball?
So yeah, school and basketball at Lyon. I don't want to say anything bad about Line. Line's a good school, and
Yeah.
a lot of great people come from Line.
All you can do is speak to your experience.
Yeah, that's
man.
true. That's true. Lots of great people from Line, and it is a great school academically. But they have lots of sports, and I think some teachers would helped us out a lot because more students, more money, more basketball players or whatever. Then
Yeah.
I think you get more money. So we definitely I had some classes that I should not have been passing that I was passing, kind of deal. And but balancing as a collegiate athlete, it's not too bad. The teachers help you out a lot. You've got away games, you're traveling. You got a test or something, then you just come back and make it up. And usually you find some friends in the class who are not traveling, and you find out what was on the test and kind of help you out that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's everybody though. Like, I don't think I could have made it through college without a few people that have already taken the test and
Sure.
previous guides and things like that. So, would you say it was a requirement that you had to get like a 4-year degree to be a pilot?
Oh, absolutely not. You anybody can go do it. You can go to, if you're here in Jonesboro, if you're in at least like a semi-large town, there's somebody at the airport that's gonna most likely have their CFI, which is their flight instructor basically, and they can help you out and get you started.
So, do you have to have your flight instructor to be a pilot? Like, do you have that?
No, I do not have it. It's not a requirement. And I also want to preface it sounds like I went to Line. I went to Line for 1 year, and I transferred to Henderson State University over that summer to go do aviation.
Yeah. See,
So,
I didn't,
sorry,
I
I was not clear on that. So I played basketball at Line for 1 year, and then that summer, after my grades were not doing great, I transferred to Henderson, stopped playing basketball, focused on aviation.
Okay, so yeah, like I said, Matt took a different route than you took.
Absolutely.
So what was it like being in classes for aviation?
Yeah, so that was the fun part is, of course you still have to take your basics. So you're still going to, chemistry and stuff that you're never going to use again in your life. I guess you do cooking, like simple stuff, which makes sense. But it was awesome. So we take classes on weather. You take physics, obviously. Lots of people take physics, but weather was the main one. But we had classes where you go sit down in the classroom and they talk you through everything you're going to be doing. As far as lessons go, as far as what you're going to expect in the field, how to read your instrument gauges, stuff like that. They kind of run through some of that stuff in class, but a lot of it's hands-on. Like almost everything flying-wise is hands-on.
So you went to Henderson State, you said?
Yeah, HSU.
Okay.
Go Reddies.
Okay, so did they have planes on site?
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. I mean, that's
Yeah,
really.
so the college is, just in town, and then you would just drive out to the airport, and Henderson they had a facility out there, and with I believe 15 to 20 airplanes. That's a rough estimate, but most of them are single engine, and then we had 2 multi-engine airplanes. So, literally your first day, you go out there and you get inside of an airplane and you take off and go flying. And
What?
yeah, like first day. That's how. It's all hands on. So you take off. You have an instructor with you, obviously, who's sitting in the right seat. So you start in the left seat, which is great, and he takes off for you, but your hands are on the controls with him. Your feet are on the floor, and on the pedals on the floor. When I say the floor, and you take off, and once he feels you're at a comfortable altitude, he literally he's like, all right, your airplane. Just let's try some turns.
So how long would you say from that first time taking off with the instructor that you were taking off by yourself?
You can solo, I believe, at 11 hours, I think is the regulations. Don't quote me on that, but that's pretty close. I think the average is probably around 30, just maybe 40. Imagine you're a flight instructor and you've got a guy who's never flown before, and you have your flight instructor license from the FAA, and you've got a guy sitting in the left seat that you barely know, and you're supposed to sign off this book, his book, his logbook that says he can go take off and do takeoffs and landings by himself, and you're not there anymore. And if he crashes, it's on you, and you get your license taken away. I don't want any part of that personally, but you can imagine why it might take a little bit longer, because you've got to. Your flight instructor's got to have like a lot of trust in you, because your performance kind of could take his license away if you do something bad.
Yeah. So talk us through a little bit about the hours. Is there a certain amount of hours required to get your license? Like, how many licensures do you need and all that?
Yeah, so I believe you have to have 40 hours is the minimum to. No one does it that early. I got mine around 80. And so, yeah, you've got a little hob meter. So whenever you start the engine, it starts running on the airplane, and you just write it down every time. And so you can log your hours correctly. But, yeah, so you start off with an instructor, and you start flying, and you log everything. And you just kind of have these maneuvers that you have to do. You basically start off with takeoffs and landings, because it doesn't matter how many maneuvers you can do if you can't land the airplane when you get back. And so you start off staying in what we call the pattern. And so you take off, and you basically make a bunch of left turns, and you work on takeoffs and landings like all day long until you can feel comfortable with it. And so your first step is a solo, and like what we just talked about, that your instructor gets out of the airplane. Of course, there's some maneuvers. Mainly the stall is when your airplane stops producing lift and you nosedive. And so we practice that a lot. So if you get at too slow of an airspeed, your airplane's going to stop producing lift. Obviously, that's what your propeller's for, is to keep you going fast. But so a lot of training on stalls and how to get out of a stall. So you have what's called the angle of attack, which is your wing. I know the listeners can't see my hands here, but you have if you can imagine a wing, the air that flows over the top of the wing is more important than the air hitting the bottom of the wing, which is kind of backwards in your head. You'd think of a wing, the air hitting the bottom of the wing would push the wing up.
Yeah.
But if you notice, the top of a wing is rounded, almost a little bit rounded on the top, and that air creates a low area of air pressure, and it really sucks the wing up into the sky, if that makes any sense. Well, whenever you get slow, your airplane's pitched up, so your nose is pointing higher and higher in the sky, and that wind over the top of your wing starts getting disconnected. You're supposed to have a smooth flow from where it hits the front of the wing all the way to the back, and the wind will disconnect off the wing and starts twirling around, and it basically stops producing lift, and your nose will just drop down. And when that happens, you just add power, and it basically recovers on its own. So it's not a big deal. But when it's your first day flying and you've never been in an airplane or anything, or even up at the controls of an airplane, and you're pointed at the sky, all you see is blue out the windshield, and then all of a sudden all you see is brown of the ground real quick, Yeah. It's a little unnerving. It's not a big deal looking back, but at the moment, we'd be in the hallway of classes of talking with, but man, I did stalls today, man, it was crazy. Man, we were pointing up the sky and then we nosedived down. It was nuts.
Yeah. So how many people would you say were in your class?
To be honest, I think it starts off at like 60 or maybe more each year coming in through Henderson, through the flight department. And I want to say I graduated with like 4 or 5 guys.
Wow.
Yeah,
Why do you think that the graduation rate was so low?
I think it's money is a big deal. It's pretty expensive. Lots of loans taken out. Some people it's not worth it anymore.
What would you think it would cost?
Oh, I have an exact number. I called Henderson and I got them to send me all my bills, and there's, like I said, we definitely need to talk about the different routes to get into aviation.
Yeah.
The route I went is probably the most expensive, but I was just starting college and I wanted to just go ahead and get a degree in aviation. So like I said, I went to Henderson, and it cost $49,000 just for the flying part. And then I had to pay, of course, the 4-year university fees and classes and all that stuff, tuition.
Okay.
But it was like $49,000 just for the flying part, but you could do it cheaper for sure.
Okay.
Now this is my private. I got my private license. I got my commercial license, which says I can get paid to fly. Then I got my instrument license, which says I can fly in the clouds and shoot approaches. When it's real low overcast outside, we can still fly. And I got my multi, which is you can fly with an airplane with 2 engines. If you're just wanting to get your private pilot license, you can say I can legally fly an airplane by myself. That's like $10,000.
Okay.
So it's not as bad as.
So I mean, we'll get to this in a little bit, but what are all of the licenses that are required for your job that you have?
Sure. For my job, all the airplanes we fly have two engines, and we like two engines because if one engine quits, we have another engine. Whereas a lot of single engine airplanes, which are great and super reliable, but if an engine quits, you're then a glider, which is still fine. But if you're flying at night, have you flown at night much?
I've only been on an airplane one time.
One time.
Yeah.
That's right. I remember
with Matt. So
that's right. Well, if you fly at night, if you're flying over trees or water or anything, it's literally pitch black. At night, you rely on the cities because of the lights. So if you're flying at night in a single engine airplane and your engine quits, you have no idea where to land because everything's dark. But you don't want to aim for the cities because you're landing on people's houses. So we like two engine stuff. So definitely you need a multi-engine license for what we fly. Your private pilot, everything I said, basically Henderson State will get you exactly what you need to get to start in aviation, to get a job, a decent job, and get where you need to go. So private pilot is what everyone starts off with. That's saying that you can just fly your average, like a Cessna 172. That's a pretty average airplane that people know. And you can fly those. And then you get your, at Henderson, you get your commercial next. No, you don't. I lied. You get your instrument next.
What is your instrument? What is that exactly?
So legally, if you got your private pilot license, you cannot touch an cloud with your airplane. Like, it's illegal to fly into a cloud with your airplane.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you have to, and there's some, if you don't have your instrument, there's some different requirements as well. But the main thing is, like, today is a beautiful blue sky day. We can go do whatever the heck we want. But if tomorrow it's rainy, low overcast, because we can fly where if the ceiling, like the bottom of the clouds, it's just a super thick cloud layer. And if the bottom of those clouds are at 200 feet above the ground, we can still go fly and we can come back in and land because we can, just to be able to land with ceilings or any type of low clouds, you have to shoot an instrument approach, which is, there's a lot into it, but on each airport, you basically have, not each airport, but your bigger airports, you have these, what's called a localizer, and it actually shoots out radio signals left and right. And then some better airports have what's called an ILS, and it shoots out radio signals up and down. And you basically tune in these radio frequencies in your airplane, and it lets you know if you're left or right of course. And it shoots it out perfectly in line with the runway. And it lets you know if you're left or right of course, or too high or too low. And you basically hold it right in the middle of these lines. And as long as you're in the middle, your airplane's going to be descending at the right amount, and it's going to be left or right of course at the perfect amount. And so if the clouds are like 200 feet above the ground, you literally can't see outside of the airplane. It's like, might as well have your eyes closed as far as looking outside. It's not black. It's mainly white or gray colored is what the inside of a cloud looks like. And just everywhere you can't see, so you're relying on your instruments. That's the main thing. That's why you have to have your instrument license. So it's a certificate, actually. But so you come in, if it's at 200 feet, you pop out of the clouds, and you're like, I mean, I don't know if you know how high, like 200 feet's like a tree height. I mean, it's like, nothing. And so you pop out and you're like right there and you're ready to land. It's pretty awesome. But so there's been scenarios where, if you don't have your instrument and you get into that cloud situation, you get disoriented like really bad. They do this in your training for your private pilot just in case. So I had a scenario where what you do is you wear a hood over your eyes. It kind of blocks out the windows, but you can still see your instruments. And I had an instructor one time. He's like, all right, just fly straight and level. I was like, okay, I can do that. And he's like, all right, now close your eyes and fly straight and level. I was like, no problem. I can feel if I'm going up or down, left or right. And so I'm sitting there flying, got my eyes closed. And he's like, all right, yeah, just keep going. And he's like, all right, yeah. He's like, you still feeling pretty good about it? I was like, yeah. And he's like, all right, open your eyes. And I looked up, and we're in like a left-hand nosedive towards the ground. And I thought we were still flying straight and level.
What?
Yeah, it's insane. So you get
How
that.
How did you not feel that?
It's like you can't. It's weird. It's like the airplane. You're still like feeling the gravity a different way. I can't really explain how it is, but you can get super disoriented. And I still do to this day. I mean, any pilot that tells you they don't get a little bit disoriented, they're lying to you. So that's why you have to super rely on your instruments that tell you if you're going up or down, how fast you're going, stuff like that, and trust them, because you can't see outside, so you don't know if you're pointed up, you're pointed down. You just don't know. So that your whole instrument certificate is so that you can survive in scenarios like that, but also so that you can legally safely fly on days that are cloudy, because not every day is going to be sunny like today. If I've got a client that wants to go to St. Louis and it's crappy weather, like, we still need to go. I mean, as long as it's safe. I'm not going to fly through thunderstorms, but clouds and rain, it will be perfectly fine. We can fly through that. So that's instrument, and it's very important to have in a career. If you're going to fly, if you're planning on going into it as a career, definitely get your instrument, and it's important. And then after that is your commercial, which is even more important, because if you don't have your commercial, you legally cannot get paid to fly. That's kind of the whole point of it.
Wow. So, yeah. I mean, if you had your private pilot's license only, you couldn't fly into the clouds and you couldn't get paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically for leisure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Who would want to do that? Who would want to spend?
I mean, some people have the money. I mean, you can buy airplanes fairly cheap, not super cheap, but decently priced airplanes.
What's a decently priced airplane?
It's hard because you got to go back and forth on safety.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, you can find airplanes for $20,000, but I wouldn't trust those super well. But I mean, 50, 60. I mean, there's boats that are in that range, vehicles, and the only problem is the maintenance on them is insane. It's a lot more. So the initial cost can be on the lower end, but we fly nice airplanes, but we don't fly anything newer than 1994. Those are our jets. Our jets are 1994, both of them. So
does that mean that, like, they just haven't really upgraded jet technology since then, or does that mean just
they've definitely? Well, the thing is they have definitely upgraded stuff, but
they're expensive, I guess.
Well, it's expensive. Oh yeah, I mean, you can the bigger, the more expensive, obviously, and the newer, the more expensive. But really, it depends on your mission, what you want to do with your airplane. And the guys that we fly with these jets, it's perfect for them. But it's not really a technology thing, because we actually, you get new technology and you can put it in the airplane, which is what we've done. So we've got all new instruments and avionics and stuff in the jets, and it's awesome. But the thing why you can fly old airplanes is because of the maintenance that you have to keep up to keep it what the FAA calls. FAA is the Federal Aviation Administration. They're basically the policemen of the aviation world, to keep it what they call airworthy. And so an airplane has to have all these specifications, and so you have to have an annual done. So once a year it has to go in and get completely looked over, and then you have to have oil changes, 100-hour checks and stuff like that. And so they keep these parts up. The body and everything is really old, but it's kind of new because it's got new stuff put on it all the time. And so they keep it up. And so even though the year model says 1994, you would never know. If you looked at a 94 car, you'd be like, oh, that's an antique, which makes me feel old because I was born in 94. But you'd think it's an antique or something. But no, these airplanes they're immaculate. You'd never be able to tell.
Okay, so you said you have to have your commercial license to get paid. Is that what you would need to, like, fly on an airline?
Yeah. So you need your commercial, and like you said earlier, do you need a degree? They're going away from it now, I think, with the pilot shortage. But you did need a 4-year degree in whatever, like, general studies. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They were looking for a 4-year degree to go into the airlines. I believe they're dropping that now. They may just want an associate's. That's airlines, and a lot of people think the airlines are the only way to go in aviation. That's not the case. But
what are some other ways that you could go other than working for an airline?
Yeah, so what I do is I work what we call corporate. We fly business people that have a business that makes good enough money to own an airplane, and a lot of people, why do you need an airplane for your business? Money versus time is money. So if you can get there quicker, you're kind of saving money even though you're spending money. And so we fly the folks, some of the business people of Jonesboro around wherever they want to go. That's what I do here in Jonesboro, and I kind of lucked out getting there. I'm sure you'll ask me about it later, how I got to this position.
Yeah.
But I lucked out because I grew up around Jonesboro, so it was awesome to get a job here. And so I fly what's called Part 91 flying. There's a federal aeronautical regulations book, and there's a whole bunch of parts to it. It's like you have to be a lawyer to get through it. It's kind of dumb. But there's Part 91, Part 135, and Part 121, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But what I do is called Part 91. It's like general aviation. We don't have much regulations to us. And so we fly corporate, which is small corporate. So let's say you have a business in Jonesboro. They buy an airplane, and we fly their airplane. And that's what we do. And it's awesome. We fly to I fly to like little podunk towns all over the United States. And I love it because I'll eat at some mom and pop place, that I'd never, ever get a chance to.
When you go to places like that, where do you land the airplane? Because I'm assuming they don't have like...
I can't tell you how many places have airports that you just would not know.
Really?
Yeah. They're scattered all over the place. And, everywhere. Little towns you'd never know. But, I can't even think. There's hundreds and hundreds just in Arkansas. But, and the great thing is we don't have any regulations limiting us to what we can and can't do. There are, but not very much, not like what I'm about to get into. So after that, you can go into what's called Part 135, which is like a charter. So let's say you wanted to fly to Phoenix. You don't know any pilots and you don't own an airplane. You can call, there's a bunch of companies out there, like a taxi service basically. And you call them and say, hey, I want to fly to Phoenix. And they'll fly to Jonesboro, pick you up and take you to Phoenix. It's not very cheap, but nothing in aviation is cheap. But yeah, that's another way to do it as a pilot.
And that's under a different act.
Yeah, it's 135. They're stricter on their regulations because at that point you're flying strangers, whereas like I'm flying people that we know out of Jonesboro. Like we are their pilots. No one else flies them. It's just us. But these guys, you're calling just random people. As a passenger, you're calling random people. As a pilot, you're getting a call and you're going to go pick up some strangers and take them wherever they want to go. And then you have Part 121, which is like Delta, Southern, or I'm going blank. Where's some airlines?
American
Airlines. There you go. Whatever. All those guys.
You're the pilot, man. Yeah, nobody asked. I've flown one time.
Yeah, so. I've never. I've only flown commercial a couple times. But so getting into that, there's a lot of regulations on that type of flying. Once you get into it, getting there's the same way. You just need your license, and then you need hours flying, which is the hard part, and we'll get into that. But so the airlines, they have, you have to do so many checks from the FAA. They come and sit with you. Then the training's insane, and with us, we're pretty laid back with our job. Like we have a lot more freedom from the FAA. They're not checking in on us all the time. Even if we went to a Part 135, which we could, like Tyson Foods, Walmart, people like that, they are 135, and if they change something on their checklist, they have to run it through the FAA to get approved and stuff like that. And we don't have to do stuff like that, which is great. But yeah, there's so many. And then if you want to stay small, I've got friends that fly for the pipeline and stuff like that. You just get in a small airplane and fly the pipeline. You look for people digging on the pipelines, stuff like that. There's so many jobs in aviation that people don't think about besides the airlines.
Yeah, so you said that Walmart and Tyson, that would be the same classification as like Delta?
No, they're Part 135. So 135 Delta and them's 121, but it's still along the same lines. They're still regulated and stuff like that, but of course Delta is going to be, they have stuff called an MEL, which is a minimum equipment list. They could have like a seatbelt sign not working, and they're shut down. That airplane's like, no, not good to go, and us, we could have like big stuff wrong and we could still go. We're not going to go if it's unsafe. Yeah. But we can. We have a list of things that makes us airworthy, common stuff like the gear position lights, that lets you know that your gear went down.
Yeah.
That's important. Your fuel gauges, that has to be working in our airplane to fly. But some of the other stuff, we can just go, which gives us a lot more leisure and saves us some money because we can choose when to go to maintenance and stuff like that. We don't have to cancel flights because you got to think Delta's got a bunch of airplanes. They could get another one or something. Us, we have this, if I've got one of our clients, like they own the airplane. If we can't fly it that day, then they're not flying,
Yeah.
And then, so they're out of it. So it gives us a little leisure. And of course we're safe with it. I want to get home just as bad as my passengers do. So I'm not going to do anything that's going to have it to where I don't get home that day,
Yeah. So, do you have to have a different license to fly certain aircrafts? Like you mentioned the jet.
Yeah.
earlier.
So there's type certificates. I know there's a lot of weird words. And so you would go to a school and they type you in that aircraft. And so they give you all the training you need for that aircraft. And it's a weight requirement and a seat requirement for when it becomes a type. I have a type in the CJ, which is a Cessna jet. And, but yeah, so it depends on the airplane, but just your bigger airplanes, you have to have a type in for as far as different. It's not a license, it's just a type. And
how long does it take to get a type?
Oh, you go to school for like a week, something like that, but it's expensive. It can cost like $20,000.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So do you have to get that to fly like commercial?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But whoever hires you will pay for that.
Yeah, that's
most
what
of the time.
I would assume.
Yeah. So, yeah, you really don't have to pay for your own unless you're doing something smaller. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Okay. So take me through, like you said, you're 5 or 6 guys that graduated.
Sure.
What did it look like getting out of aviation school and like transitioning into the workforce? Like, what did your first year and a half look like?
So, like at Henderson, I got all my hours, which if you want to go into aviation, you get all your ratings, all your license, it's awesome to get, but you really don't have many hours, which is what employers are looking for, and really the insurance companies are looking for, because that's a big deal, because every airplane has an insurance company and they don't want people flying it without hours. And so how
many would you say you had after you graduated?
How much did I have? I think I had like 275, something like that.
What's a good
that's
amount?
On the low end.
Yeah, what's a good amount to have?
I mean, you can't even go into the airlines until you have 1,500.
Okay, so how do you get hours?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You don't own an airplane. So you don't have a job.
So the main
how do you
thing
get hours? You just spent $50,000.
Is you spend more money and you get your flight instructor certificate, and then you fly students. That's what a lot of people do. Actually at Henderson, that's like basically what everybody did. You got all your ratings, then you got your flight instructor license, and then you just started training the new guys. And so you build time like that, and then once you got your hours, you go off and get your job. That's not what I did.
Okay, so what did you do?
I never wanted to flight instruct. I had no interest in it. I would recommend it. I think you learn a lot.
What are the requirements to like being a flight instructor?
It's just like another license. You take a couple tests online, and then you have the FAA come and ride with you, and they pretend like they're an intro student, and they basically like try to crash, not literally, but they try to mess stuff up, and you correct them, stuff like that. And you have to know basically everything. I mean, they want you to know a lot because you're going to be teaching. And so the ground portion, every license that you get has a ground portion and a flying portion. And the ground portion is extensive, and then the flying portion, you go up and they just kind of act like an intro student, and you just kind of teach them how to do stuff, and they make sure that you know what you're doing. So I would recommend it, but I just didn't have any interest in it, and it was more money I didn't want to spend. And my wife actually, as I graduated, before I graduated, she was smarter than me, and she graduated before I did. So we met at Lyon College, like I said at the beginning. We met at Lyon. We transferred to Henderson together, and she became a teacher and a coach. And she got hired down in El Dorado. And so we moved to El Dorado. And I drove back to Arkadelphia back and forth to fly and finish out my degree.
How far was that?
Hour and a half, one way.
Okay. That's not too bad.
No,
but...
I stayed with my friend Eric Lewis a lot.
Shout out Eric Lewis.
What's up, Eric? And so I stayed at his house a ton, and he lived there in Arkadelphia. And so I would fly and stay at his house and then go back to El Dorado. And what was the question?
What route did you take to get your hours?
Okay, yeah, that's right. So my wife, so like I said, I was married. We got married in college. She was working in El Dorado. I didn't want to continue working in Arkadelphia, so I got hired at the local airport in El Dorado.
Yeah.
and I started basically. It paid all right, and you're working for the city, which is nice in that case. But I was basically like a low level. I fueled airplanes when they came in, and I cut the grass, which kind of stunk. I had a 4-year degree. I had a bachelor's in aviation, and I had a minor in physics, and I had people coming in on airplanes telling me to put fuel in the airplane, which is nothing against it. I loved the job; it was awesome. But I had just worked so hard to get it, But I kind of lucked out, and I found a guy there who was a pilot out of El Dorado, and he was an instructor as well, so he let me ride on the King Air with him, and I got some hours that way. And then, interesting enough, Matt came down to El Dorado, asked me to fuel his airplane. We just got to talking. I told him my qualifications. I was from Jonesboro. He offered me a job, and it's kind of a God thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Even more of a God thing because he was friends with you, and he told me to and come to your group and hang out.
It's just crazy how connections work.
Oh,
man.
Dude.
It really is. Like, I feel like I've known you for a long time, and we met just by chance, really.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the chances of, really, I didn't talk to a whole lot of pilots. I saw a whole bunch, but they don't really like to talk. They'll go sit in the pilot's
And
lounge.
Matt's really not a talker.
He's
either.
not. He's not a talker. So I don't know how we got to talking that one time, and it took a couple times. He flew down again, and we talked again. But it's connections a lot. I'm telling you, if you want to get into aviation, call up your local airport, or if you're close to a bigger town like Jonesboro or something. I say Jonesboro like it's a big town, but
if you're close to Jonesboro, hit that place.
Yeah, but if you're close to Jonesboro, just call out. If you type in Jonesboro Airport and just make the phone call, you might not get the exact person you want to talk to, but they are going to have a phone number to a flight instructor who will be able to help you out, get into it. And like I said, if you are in college or if you're in high school, go to your local airport and ask for a job to fuel airplanes, because you're going to learn so much out there. I talked about it like it was a bad thing. Like, I love that job. It was an absolute blast. Laid back. You're getting to see airplanes all the time, like $1 million airplanes, awesome. And then you learn a ton while you're doing it, and it'll help you significantly whenever you do get into aviation and start working on your license and stuff. You're going to be ahead of the game for sure.
Yeah. So Matt came down. You guys got to talking about who knows what. He offered you a job, and the hours thing wasn't really like a big deal.
Yeah. So at the time I had 300 and something hours, which is really on the low end for getting a job. But I think he just liked me. I don't know. I don't know. But so he offered me the job, and I basically came on and flew the trips with him, and he was kind of like a flight instructor, even though he wasn't. And for the airplanes that we're flying, you don't have to have a type certificate except for in the jets. But we fly King Airs and stuff, which don't have requirements like that. You just need your multi-engine to fly it. And so he would let me ride along with him, and I would fly the airplane. And I could log it, put it in my logbook, and then I built hours that way. And then eventually, when I had enough hours, the insurance allowed me to fly the airplane single pilot. And then so I've been going from there, and now I can fly the jet. And so that obviously had more hour requirements. And after I got my type in the jet and stuff, it's just worked out. It's worked out really well.
Yeah. So where would you say the coolest place that you've gotten to go? Well, actually, before that, take us through what an average day. Like you're
Sure.
going to go fly somebody. What does that look like?
Sure. So I get to the airport an hour before our departure time. So mainly what happens is we'll get a phone call or an email or a text from one of our clients saying that, hey, on Thursday I want to go to Los Angeles, something like that for 2 days. And so
No big deal.
No big deal. No. So most of the time we hope for the overnight trips are kind of far out on the schedule so we can plan a little bit better for it. But we do get the occasional like day before. I've had the same day calls before, like, hey, something happened, I need to go right now. But those are pretty rare. But so we'll get a call saying, hey, I want to fly. I'll call the FBO, which is your basically the people that fuel your airplanes for you and stuff. And I'll let them know to pull the airplane out, so they'll go grab it, pull the airplane out. I'll show up an hour before, get a fuel order in, so let them know how much fuel it needs. I'll walk around the airplane, do a pre-flight, and we basically like make sure it has ice, coffee, papers, stuff like that to make it the trip more comfortable for our passengers. And then we hop in the airplane and get going. But before then, we do flight plan. Obviously, we'll check the weather, stuff like that, your important stuff. I know it sounds like it's a hard job, but there's really not a lot to it, you know, like
other than operating an aircraft.
Operating the aircraft. So
yeah.
So we will, like you said, we'll take off, and you hit autopilot. The airplane at that point, you're just kind of pushing buttons, telling the airplane what to do. You're not physically flying the airplane anymore. You're just pushing buttons. And then when you're coming into land, you take the autopilot off and you land the airplane. And that's when the fun part starts, because you'll get, if it's an overnight, then you have a lot of fun. If it's just a day trip, you can still have a good time, and you just go explore. Really is my job. That's why I would try to tell people that corporate flying is, I think, the best. You're not going to get the money from. I mean, there's guys in the airlines making like $250K, like insane. You're not going to get that with corporate aviation, but those guys are flying point A to point B and getting a taxi to the hotel. Like, it's just, I don't think they get to do as much. Of course, there might be people that do, but from anything I've heard, that's not the case. Where, as in our case, let's see what I have coming up. I have a Phoenix trip coming up, and I will fly to Phoenix and I'll get a rental car and go out and eat, go hang out, go see the local places and do my thing, and I don't pay for it. Like, the people that we fly give us a credit card.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so awesome, man. So back to that question. I didn't mean to cut you off. But
dude,
where's the coolest place you've been?
Oh,
I think I kind of know, but you tell me. You tell me.
The coolest place. Is it California? Is that what you're thinking?
I was thinking the picture you posted about where Superman was.
Oh, yeah, in where was that? Metropolis?
Yeah. From the movie, right?
Oh, you're talking about Niagara Falls.
Yeah, Niagara
Falls.
See, that's what I thought.
Okay, so Niagara Falls is cool.
Yeah.
Okay, but there is a place in it's right outside.
Wait, you've been to Metropolis too?
Have you? Do you know where Metropolis is?
No, I don't.
Dude, it's not far from here. You know where Paducah, Kentucky is?
Yeah,
it's literally across the river. You can walk from Paducah to Metropolis, Illinois.
Do they have a lot of Superman
yes,
stuff there?
Dude, it's like, I think it's where they wrote Superman or something. They've got statues. They've got stores full of Superman stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah. So what were you gonna say?
Niagara Falls is cool. Oxnard, California. We fly there. We have some people that go see the Cowboys training camp. They have a week there in Los Angeles where the Cowboys go train, and so we go and we just hang out around the Malibu area for a week, and that's probably the coolest place. Just based on the sights, like driving down the highway, like where you've got mountains on your right and the ocean on your left. Like, as far as visually, that was pretty awesome. That and Niagara Falls is equally as awesome. But we've got some of my favorite places are really just like down in the South, flying to these little cities, you've never heard of, and just talking to the local people and going to eat, like I said before, like going to eat at a mom and pop shop, where you'd never ever eat or ever heard of it, We try to stay away from the chains anytime that we can, just because we can eat at a chain place here in Jonesboro.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the big city of Jonesboro.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, I grew up in Pocahontas, Arkansas, and then went to Batesville, and then went down to Arkadelphia. No movie theater or anything in Arkadelphia.
So this is big time.
Jonesboro. Oh man, Chick-fil-A. This is the first time I've ever lived in a town with a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how do you manage like family life? Like, what advice would you give someone that has a family and has to go on like some overnights or just at the drop of the hat has to leave?
Sure. The first thing is have an awesome wife or husband. Yeah. If you're a woman in aviation, that's awesome. Actually had a girl from high school text me the other day, and she's getting into aviation. She's just going to get her private this summer. I gave her some of my old stuff I found in a closet in my house. She's going to get into it. It's awesome. Get into it. But family is so important no matter what your career is. But make sure you're locked down with your spouse, you're on the same page. But we have 3 children at home, 2 and under, all boys. So I do get the call of the drop on the hat, drop of the hat, and I do have to head out. But the main thing is just trust in your wife, and because she is awesome, and do lots of FaceTime calls, and just mainly, FaceTime's a lifesaver. I don't know what people did before, FaceTime.
Yeah, I guess just traditional calls,
yeah,
man.
I know. You know what? That's a good answer to it. Yeah. That's exactly what people do. But so FaceTime is, we utilize FaceTime like crazy. But, we'll get those week trips or 3-day, 4-day trips, and my wife's at home with 3 kids, and it can get hard sometimes. And I feel bad because I'm out eating and
you're in Metropolis.
I'm going to museums and stuff.
Yeah.
And she's at home with 3 kids, and that can be rough, obviously on her, but it makes me feel pretty bad sometimes. But this is what we both wanted to do, and she's a stay-at-home mom now, and it's just really worked out. And
So we can just touch on this briefly. We covered the aviation side from like a college standpoint.
Sure.
What are some of the other ways that you can get into aviation?
Yeah, so I'd call your local place. If you're in Jonesboro, just call the FBO and ask for local flight instructors. They will get you hooked up. These guys are wanting students, and I promise you, your first day you're going to come in, you're going to sit down at a desk with a flight instructor, but then you're going to go out to the airplane and go flying. And if you wanted to, just to see if you're wondering about it, they have stuff called discovery flights, and they're not very expensive. I want to say it's under $100.
Really?
And they take you up and kind of give you the experience of that you sit. No, we don't. We're not flight instructors, so we don't do it. Yeah. But if you find a flight instructor, they'll take you up, let you fly the airplane to see, because if you get up there and you can be like, oh, this is not for me,
Yeah.
Or you could be like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Which was my scenario, but it's not everyone's. But I'd recommend your local aviation is the way to go. Find a local flight instructor, ask around. Somebody's going to know. And but if you wanted to do it as a degree, you can go the same route. Henderson State's the only place in Arkansas. Henderson State University is the only place you can get a 4-year degree in aviation. But I think I've been hearing ASU might do something.
So is there anything else that you want the listeners to know about aviation?
Sure. And I've said this earlier, but it's absolutely not unattainable. I'm from a small town, Pocahontas, Arkansas. Don't come from a lot of money. If you've got a dream, you can go after it and achieve it. It's absolutely not a straight line to get there. It's going to have ups and downs, lefts and rights. Some unexpected stuff's probably going to come up, but if you keep pushing, you can achieve it. And it doesn't have to be aviation. If you've got a dream to do anything else, just push hard and work at it, and you will achieve it. I promise you.
So you kind of sounded like a basketball coach there. Did you ever want to do coaching of any kind?
Yeah, I did. Playing basketball, I thought I could make a good coach, but turns out I married a coach. So yeah, she's better at it than I am, and she coaches me daily.
Yeah. So guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode on aviation. I hope it answered all your questions. So yeah, just go out there, get started, go to your local airport if you wanna do a discovery flight.
Absolutely.
And Alex, I just have a few more questions. These are un-aviation related, but I like to do a little icebreaker questions either at the beginning or at the end, and this one just happened to be at the end. So if there was going to be a movie made about your life, who would portray you in it and why?
Well, they'd have to look like me, I guess. So, being 6'4", blonde with a beard, I'd say Chris Hemsworth. One of the only guys out there, I think.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you picked someone with an accent to play you.
Well, yeah,
Chris Hemsworth from Pocahontas, Arkansas. Yeah, I'd watch that movie. That'd be a good movie.
And he's Thor, which is my second favorite superhero. So
yeah, so if you were gonna have one superhuman ability, I'm a big nerd. What would it be?
Well, I think you could probably guess.
Yeah. I'm guessing flight, but
yes.
So what would you do with that?
I think I would just want to go up high, look at stuff, but obviously travel.
Yeah.
Free travel. Hey, I want to go to the beach today.
Yeah.
Go to the beach for free.
Yeah.
No fuel costs.
No fuel costs.
But I wonder with lots of stuff, whenever you gain something, you're also giving something away. So I love the questions of like, okay, like you have the ability to fly, but you can only go 2 miles an hour, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I don't know, that'd be rough.
Oh yeah, that'd be super rough. But at least you could like go up high and stuff.
Yeah, it would just take a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you really couldn't travel far distances with it, but it'd be pretty cool. Still, I think
I'd still choose it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and last one. So, what would you say your favorite Disney movie of all time is?
Favorite Disney movie is also my favorite movie of all time, and I don't think anybody can rebuttal it. It's The Lion King, the original.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got
favorite scene from that movie. Go.
Favorite scene
Yeah.
from that movie? Oh, there's too many, but I'd have to go with the hyenas, and
at the end when they were like about to eat Scar.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that part, and whenever Rafiki is like going after the hyenas with his stick.
Yeah.
Like all karate style.
I would have to agree with you. Disney movie wise, Lion King is my favorite. Wreck-It Ralph is my second favorite. But my favorite scene from The Lion King is when Simba is talking to his dad in the sky. I was tearing up. I was like, Dad, don't leave me. Don't leave me.
Yeah.
That was a...
Oh, and then, of course, whenever he like roars at the end in the rain and stuff with the music.
Yeah.
It like gives me chill bumps every time. I've watched it 4 billion times.
Exactly. And
also, that movie came out the day I was born.
Really?
I believe it came to theaters like March 25th, 1994, which is the day I was born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I still remember having my 5th birthday, so I guess it would have been the following year. I had a Lion King theme birthday party, and that's when it just came out on VHS. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, so we all went to Burger King and got the Lion King toys and everything. So, yeah, Lion King definitely has stuck with me as well. But guys, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed sitting down with Alex as much as I have. Like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Give us a 5-star review. And we'll be back next week with another episode. Alex, I appreciate you being on the show.
Man, I loved it. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Peace.